I'm starting on this top bit here. I'm just replacing stitching to about here. I overlapped one and a half, about 2 stitches back into here where it's still good. And I'm going into the end. The way they did this originally is one line came over to here and the stitch was hidden under this seam here. The knot was hidden under that seam. The other one, the knot was hidden under this seam. Since I'm not replacing all of it, I'm going to try to hide both knots under this seam. I'm probably not going to be able to do that. I'll probably hide one inside the mag pouch here. This one should be under the seam. And I'm just using a square knot because it's about what they used back in the day. And I just leave a little bit of a tail, about 1/8 of an inch. I don't want to leave too much. But you have to leave something there. So it'll look something like that. It will, I've got these little pins that are kind of holding everything together. I need to tap that down though. This little weight comes in handy for a lot of things. And when you're working on an old holster, you might as well use an old hammer. I want to just tap that stitch down. You can, it's fairly well matched in there. I know this is kind of rolled over. There isn't much I can do for that. But it's pretty well matched. On the back side, not quite as well, but it's okay. I told my customer, you are going to know that this has been repaired because there isn't any way to hide all that. This thread is really dark on the back side. It's like it's had plenty of boot polish on it. On the inside, it's a lot lighter. I can't make it both ways. It's almost impossible to do that. But it's tapped down really nice. When I prep my thread, I just I use a reasonably dry dauber. This was walnut dye that I used on this. So I start with, see if I can grab it without, where did I put it? I start with the regular linen thread. So it's just a natural colored linen thread, very similar to what would have been used originally on these holsters. Except it would have been left natural, as evidenced on the inside here. I don't want to leave it natural completely because it's gotten dirty. It's been colored by use. So I don't want to leave it natural, but that's kind of just what it is. So I've got that line is done, the bottom one. I'm going to do the top one. And that one kind of, you can see where your stitch lines are. And it kind of cuts down right there. Kind of comes along and it cuts down 1 stitch. And then that's where it's tied off, is inside the magazine pouch. So that's what I'm going to do. And then we'll start. Then I'm going to get the tool pouch done. These are things that I want to do before I start going down this line, because I'll go down this line just past the magazine pouch. There's a couple little, it's kind of weird how these magazine pouches are done. There's only a couple of stitches on each side here, just a couple stitches, and a knot that's inside on both sides. So when you look at them, they splay out like this. They fold together. There's a couple stitches and a knot inside the pouch. You have to do that with it apart. You can't do that when it's together. So one of these was coming apart already when the holster was sent to me, so I had to take it apart just to fix that. I wouldn't have done that had it not been for all the stitching that was coming apart here. I wouldn't have taken it apart. I would have just left that. It would have been fine, not a big deal. Although there was some stitching coming apart here. This is very difficult to do since it's so deep in the holster. Even with my fancy pliers that I did, it's really, really hard to get these. You just can't see enough down in there. I've gone to a point where I've done, stuck a mirror down in the toe of the holster so I could reflect off of the mirror with some light and try to see what I'm doing better. And it's really tough. It's just really tough to do anything this deep into the holster. I've done the straps before. They're tough, but they can be done. So when I do this, I'll stitch this line. I'll stitch this together. I'll stitch this line down to here. Leave my needles and my thread inside the holster. I'll have enough thread to go all the way around in one piece. You can tie a knot in it and leave it there and then just pick up again with another stitch line. That's fine. But I prefer to do it in one long stitch line. The holes down around the toe are very unevenly spaced. Just kind of interesting. Whoever was running the machine that day probably wasn't real good at going around the toe, around curves with their sewing machine. But it is what it is. It's a really tough thing to do, going around a holster like that, because it's not a real wide gap there. So I'm going to get this stitch line done. It's not a big deal. I'm just going to do that off camera. When I start doing the rest of it, getting into this part, I'll put you back on and show you what I'm doing. Alright, I got that top stitch line done, little knot right inside the mag pouch. Should work out okay. I did do the corners of the magazine pouch here just to have that done and out of the way, so when I'm ready to do this line I can get it down to here. You can just tie off down here if you want to, if you think that's going to be beneficial to just tie off. You can do that. I prefer to just have one long thread to go all the way around the perimeter of the holster. It's just a me thing. So I will do it that way. So that's done. I'm ready to go ahead and stitch all that on when time comes. I do have to get the tool pouch sewn on. I ran out of thread that I had dyed, so I got to dye some more. Get the strap will have to go on, but that will go on that'll be the last thing before I attach the front. I'll actually start stitching the front. When I stop here, I'll attach that. Then I'll actually probably do the magazine pouch. Then I'll stitch this, then I'll finish up the perimeter. Then it'll be done. Also, on here, we have to attach this piece. It will get a final cleaning too. Here's the strap. I wanted to make sure that it was, moisturized and treated, cleaned really well. So the piece that goes here that holds the buckle is in my little bag here. I always keep these little parts in a bag. That way I don't lose them. So this piece will be stitched around. This one, the last one I did, they'll usually have a place where they cross over. So it'll be done with one thread and cross over somewhere. The last one crossed over here. This one crosses over at the bottom and the knot is up here. I don't know that I like that, but crossing over is also kind of a strange thing to do. The other one crossed over at the top. This one crosses over at the bottom. You kind of see, when you take these apart, you'll see where the stitch lines kind of lay in there, and you can see that this is where the knot was, right here. So that's where I'm going to do it again. That's kind of the way I always do it. Just by looking at, because it leaves a mark in the leather. So that's the way I'll do that. This will go on, and it stitches around the perimeter here, but it also stitches along here. and that stitches with the perimeter stitching. So I don't want to do anything with that until I do the perimeter. So when I go around the outside, that'll get stitched down. The keeper was missing, so I had to cut a piece. I'll have to dye that. Hopefully I'll come close. Sometimes when you dye your leather, you come close, but it's like, darn it, as soon as you put up some kind of finish on it, it gets too dark or it gets too light. That's what happened with this one. I thought I had the right finish, or the right color, and then I put a finish on it, and it went super dark on me. And it was like, darn it, that was not what was supposed to happen. It turned almost black. It was like, dang it. And it was brown dye. So it was like, frustrating. But the keeper, this is all that was left. When I took that apart, that was the piece that was left, which is good. It told me how wide it needed to be. And it was 15 millimeters. So that's what I went with, 15 millimeters. It's good to have something, because the other holster that I did was this wide, 3/8 of an inch, about 10 millimeters. Big difference there. You don't think 5 millimeters sounds like much, but it is. So that will have to also go on. I'll do that. Probably get the tool pouch stitched up, get that stitched onto here, and then we'll be ready to start stitching around the magazine pouch, getting it done here, getting it done around there. Got my keeper made. It's a little lighter than I was hoping for, but I'm going to do a little aging on it yet, so hopefully it'll darken up a little. I did do another cleaning on the holster. I'll do one more after it's all assembled. I'll do one more cleaning on it, and that might lighten the other parts up. So I think we're going to be okay there. But I got this buckle part on, and there you go. I did my crossover at the bottom here, and I put my knot here. I really hate doing the knot up here because this is where your trigger guard on the pistol goes. So I really hate doing it there, but that's how this one was done. And like I said, you'll see impressions from where the knots are and where all that kind of stuff is. So you just kind of follow what's there, and that's about the best you can hope for. And then you want to make sure that these holes are going to all line up as you come along. When you go through to stitch it all back together, you want to make sure your holes are all going to line up. So I kind of do all that. It's not so hard because everything is kind of there. All your holes are already there. You're just kind of replacing the thread. At least in this case, that's what I'm doing. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the pouch sewn back on. Alright, so I did get the tool pouch stitched on. I just went down the center here, and when I got to the bottom, I tied a knot, tucked the ends under, came around here, which locked those ends in, and down to here, and tied a knot. All done. Still kind of obvious on the top. I'll figure something out there. If I am careful with some boot polish, I might be able to get it worked into the threads a little bit without getting it on the rest of the holster. It's kind of what I'm hoping, because I don't want it to color inside here. So if I use dye, if I was to touch that up with some dye on a paintbrush, which can be done very carefully, very small paintbrush, you can do that. It will migrate to the inside, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm probably not going to do a whole lot. I'll probably try the boot polish thing a little bit back here and see if it works. Other than that, I'm probably not going to do anything. I do have another project, another holster that I have to get done, which is kind of throwing me for a loop, so I have to work out that one. I'll show that though. Anyway, that's where I'm at with this one. So I got this all together today very nicely. I'll have to figure out how to darken that up a little bit. That's where I'm going to try the boot polish first. And this is done as far as we can go. The rest of this is going to take some time, and I need to block that out. It's getting 7:30. I got to go in, get some dinner, and go to bed because I got a 5:30 delivery, which means I got to be out the door at 4 o'clock tomorrow morning. Alright, I'm going to have to start stitching the front to the back. I've had these 3 little pins in here. I'll leave a link down below to these. They'll be to my Amazon store, so they are, well, they'll help the channel out a little bit. People don't buy a lot through my Amazon store. I'll probably lose it pretty soon. Got to kind of sell, stuff through there. But anyway, they're not very expensive, but they are super handy when you got projects like this, or like on a bag. You need some of these to hold things together while you're stitching it, especially with oil tan leathers. Oil tan doesn't glue real well. So I'm going to pop just one of these out at a time and attach this and slip them back in. And these just kind of, here, I'll show you one that's not in use. So they're pretty slick. You just lift up on this and hold it, and then this pin comes out. When you put it back in and let go, that thing's in there and it stays pretty well. When I pulled on it, I lift it up on that top again. But it's pretty snug in there, and it's not really going anywhere unless you pull it pretty hard. So it's pretty handy to have when you put them together. As long as you hold just on the body there, you can just push that pin right up in there real easy. So if I leave it on the bench here, those pins will stay in place. They aren't like the strongest thing in the world either. They will bend. Just straighten them back out. It's fine. So I want to try to line everything up, and I know I'll try to keep this in camera, but it's not going to be. I'm just going to try to, I've got my thread into that top hole because it's not one of them that I need. Alright, that one's in the right hole, I think. I do believe. Before I found these, when I get in a situation like this, I would use like pencil erasers and thumbtacks. So I've been doing stuff like this for quite a while. It would appear I need to grab one of these long ones. There are different lengths. The set that I bought has 2 different lengths. There's some long ones and some shorter ones. This particular spot, I need the longer ones. There was 3 of each, so these shorter ones are not working from here. too much leather. That one went right through there nice. Just like downtown. Had my whole week planned out at work till this afternoon. One of the machines went down at the company we were hauling out of, and they canceled the rest of the loads for the rest of the week. Today is Wednesday. Kind of left Thursday and Friday up in the air. Alright. Need to make some money. Had to buy my wife a car. So, it's lined up real nice up here. That first stitch is going to kind of loops over into to this hinge part and then into the holster. So, I like to start from the outside and work in. And this is a lot of thread that I get to work with. But that's by my choice. I'm glad when I used the Connolly's to clean it, but that'll also moisturize it. This part of the holster was really hard and really stiff, and you can see now that I can actually move it without fear of cracking it. So I'm really glad that I did that. I did apply the Connolly's a couple of times to that area. To moisturize it well before I got into this. So if I grab the two pieces and pull them, put a little pressure on them, I don't want to pull them tight, just enough pressure that I can find the hole again with the other needle. That usually works out pretty well for me. And if I pull them in the right direction, I can get in there. But I didn't find the right hole. It was the next hole that I found. And sometimes the first one is always going to be the most difficult. Try to keep all my threads straight here. There we go. I'm going to cinch that down a little bit. I'm not pulling too hard, but I'm putting a little pressure on that one because, let's see if I can show you. That one is binding that down. Now it's just a matter of going down to here, and you can see there's kind of an indentation right there. And I'm going to stop right about there, and then that's where the magazine pouch is going to start getting sewn on. So I might go 1 or 2 stitches past that just to make it a little easier on myself. You know, however you start your stitching, you want to keep doing it that way throughout the entire project. You want all the stitching to look consistent. Well, that was silly. I grabbed the wrong thread. You know what that did? Just pulled it out of that hole that I just stuck it through. I've got my thread waxed up to start sewing on the pouch. And remember, this one is a little different than your regular Luger holster because it's got the cleaning rod pouch. So I'm going to start up here because looking at it and looking on the inside here, it looks like it was tied off down at the bottom. And you can see in the corner where that thread came down and it crossed the corner and then continued across here. So I'm going to start at the top, stitch down and across. It did have a binding stitch to go over the top here, so I'll also do that. So we've got just one thread coming over the top, and we'll continue on just like we'd normally stitch. The first few holes on something like this are always the most difficult. And this is where being able to hold the holster open like this makes it easier. Now, of course, when you get to the bottom, you have to be able to hold it open to do any of the work down in here. These first few stitches, you could do those without having to hold the holster open. So I zoomed in a bit here. Hopefully I'll still keep it in frame. I have a hard time with that. I'm in the last hole down here, and I don't know if that impression will show up. Right in the corner, the impression where the thread left across the corner. So what we'd do is just go right across the corner to that next hole just like that. And pull our needle through. And you can see how difficult this would be if you had to try to do that without opening the holster up, because it's very deep into the holster. We're down, you know, from the top we're down here. Even with this opening here, it's still a long ways to reach in there and still be able to see anything, you know. So let me zoom this back out a bit. I'm going to hold a little tension on that. It'll help keep the hole lined up. As tempting as it can be to glue something like this together, you don't want to do that. Not on something like this. Glue wasn't used originally, and you don't want to use it now. And there we go. There's that first line, left about 1/8 of an inch down there. I'm going to try to tap that down. It's going to be really tough just because of where it's at. Again, you can see how deep that is in there. I need this longer end on the hammer to get in there. And that's just a cobbler's hammer. I did some video on that, polishing it up and stuff. I'll try to leave a link to that. There we go. The mag pouch is on, nice and secure. All my stitching is in. I did finish that knot up here, right where it was originally. Oh, there it is. Right here where it was originally. The other one was down here originally. So we're that far. I need to go in and get some dinner and get some sleep. I've been going since 4 o'clock this morning, and it's 7:30 now. I haven't had dinner yet. I'm kind of hungry. I don't think I had lunch either. I don't remember. Everything running together these days. My apologies. It's been a couple of days. You gotta work when you can. Had a bunch of stuff canceled on me, and then some other loads came up, and I couldn't pass them up. They paid really well. When you're looking at your lifting strap to go back in, you can see how that knot, you can obviously see that it sits this way. So you want to make sure you go through the front the correct direction so that it'll sit and look like it belongs there, because it does. When you're looking inside here and we have this cutout, there's actually a slit in this back panel that this goes up into, and they want to make sure everything is going to lay straight and slide up in there. There's only one hole here, so it was only stitched into one hole, and it appears that it was that center one. I'm just going to put one of my little alignment pins here in through that hole. Until I'm ready to actually put a needle through it. So we've got it all stitched, and you can really tell around the toe of the holster how uneven all those stitch holes were, especially on the back side. That's not me, that's just how it was made. It's really kind of interesting, to say the least, that they were done that way. And I thought, oh my god, this looks horrible, but really that's where the holes were. I couldn't tell anything else. I couldn't find any other holes where they were. And it actually almost lends a twist to it, and it's kind of, which is probably just age, and now that everything's got its integrity back, being all stitched together, because most of these threads down at the bottom were broken. It just, nothing had let go yet, which was kind of weird. It's kind of cool, but kind of weird. So I've got that, and it's together. I'm kind of weirded out by it, but this is another time that that end of the hammer comes in handy. Really kind of hard around the toe here. And there we go. I'm going to have to do a little more cleaning on it because that's just how I got to roll. But the strap will buckle up nicely. Slides right through the keeper. And that is looking pretty good. I will darken the thread on the outside anyway, just because it's got to match somehow. I did a final cleaning on the lid and the top here. You can hardly tell that that stitch line was ever out of there on that tool pouch. I think that came out really good. I think they got the thread to look really good on it. This is what it would have looked like originally, is this stitching here. And it was brown like that. On the inside it's not. It's that dirty white color. Where I replaced just that little bit of stitching, just up to about here, this bit here. I think that blended in really well. I think that came out nice. I did touch up a little bit of the really light spots here, and it just lightly with a little bit of brown dye since I had it out. Looks really nice. I think once I finish cleaning the rest of it, I did go all the way around. All the stitching that is exposed has been touched up with some. I just used some dark brown Phoebings and a paintbrush. Something that I've done a lot, so I'm actually pretty quick at it. So it goes pretty well. With the wax on the thread, it didn't soak in real well, or it soaked in real well, but it didn't soak all the way through. So it didn't soak into the inside thread, which is good. I didn't want it to. You can hardly tell back here where this strap was disconnected. I think that turned out wonderful. It's looking great. I hope my customer likes it as much as I do. I will be sending him some pictures as soon as I'm done. I still have to finish cleaning it. I have some other obligations that I've got to get to tonight yet. I don't even know what time it is, but oh my gosh, it's 4:30 already. And I got to be there by 5:30. So I got to get in, get cleaned up, and get off to that obligation. Alrighty, the Finnish holster is finished. Okay, that's bad, I know. So there it is. I'm really pleased with the way it came out. I'm always a little humbled when I get to work on a piece like this that is obviously very old. This one was hand stitched, and somebody had, you know, they did their job and they put it together with an awl and hand stitched it with a saddle stitch. And I could only tell the saddle stitch because there was a piece from here to here that still had enough of the stitching intact that I could see that the threads passed each other as opposed to a lock stitch. One of these days I'll do an example of both. So that's the only way I could tell for certain that this was saddle stitched and not lock stitched like most of the holsters I've worked on. The other holster this customer sent is lock stitched. I think, well, good thing there's a rug there. I think this it was a great holster to work on. I enjoyed it. So, that being said, I think we're going to call it a day. I am going to go and get some lunch. Take a little break, even though I've got plenty of work to do. And I think that's going to be it. Anything I can find out about the origins of this holster, I will leave in the description, or I'll put, down here somewhere. Do something like that. I will leave links to some of the products that I used on this holster. And, yeah, there'll be affiliate links. Try to make a couple of bucks here and there when I can. Just to help out myself with some of the supplies. I don't ever charge for shop supplies, which is like, the thread, needles, the Conleys, the dye, stuff like that. I don't ever charge for any extra for that. All I ever charge for is my labor, and I probably should be raising my labor rate, but, I'm kind of that, I'm still old school. I love doing the work, so that's kind of my gig. It's a pleasure to work on something like this, that that somebody else hand-stitched this holster, it's cool to me. This is one of those things that you got to have a passion for working on this stuff, and I do, so it's always a pleasure to do. Anyway, drop a comment down below, good, bad, or indifferent. I always respond to comments, good, bad, or indifferent. Smash that like button, it helps out the channel. What can I say? I got to do a little self-promotion here. My channel's not doing as great as it should be. I'd like to pick up some new subscribers along the way, so if you're not subscribed already, go ahead and do it. That being said, stay safe, God bless, I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.